Welcome back to Trials and Triumphs. Today's episode is a special edition where we get to hear from someone who is in the midst of her trial and hasn't yet emerged triumphant. Hannah Larson is a passionate advocate for helping young adults connect more authentically with God and their divine nature. With a background in journalism, teaching, and spirituality, Hannah has spent over a decade helping thousands feel seen, heard, and loved by God. She's the voice behind the Girl Finding God Substack, where she shares her honest reflections on faith and life. Hannah, it's an honor to have you here today.
Hello, everybody. So my early background in childhood, I'm from Page, Arizona. I grew up in a really small tourist town in northern Arizona. I loved it. I love the desert. I love the sun. I had a really unique experience there just because I grew up 5 minutes away from the largest Native American reservation in the United States, so the Navajo Nation. So 80% of my high school was Native American, and I also grew up meeting people from all over the world because people would come to visit Antelope Canyon, which is the most famous slot canyon, and Lake Powell and Horseshoe Bend. So very natural wonders that people from all over come to visit. And so from a very young age, I had lots of opportunities to make friends with people from everywhere and learn their stories. And God has really blessed me with a deep desire to love people and to learn their stories. And that was something I was able to cultivate from a really young age. And when I was 16, I had a really special experience with God where I was studying the Book of Mormon really intently for the first time, and I had a revelation where God told me that the whole reason why he put me on earth was to do everything I can to help his children feel his love. And I'm 28 now, and that was when I was 16, and pretty much everything I've done since then personally and professionally has been for that purpose. So my whole life revolves around learning how to love like Jesus does and did, and trying to do that in every aspect of my life. And so currently I am on a mission to build a community where people can more authentically connect with God and experience his love, because I believe that it is through God's love that we are healed and saved and changed and become who we're meant to be. So that's a little bit about me.
I love that. Kind of diving a little deeper into that. What were some of the key moments that shaped you growing up?
Yeah, I think, all of the ones that I just mentioned, totally immersed in the Navajo culture with the Navajo people is just, I'm so grateful and forever changed by. My pep assemblies were not what you see on TV about like a high school in America. Like always hoop dancing, always traditional Native American stories and rug weaving, and I'm very much, the reservation is only 5 minutes away. So even though I didn't technically grow up on the reservation, I did. And so a lot of who I am is shaped by that, and especially there is such an element of humility in their culture that is really beautiful, that I am super grateful for. That I struggle with pride so much, but I really grew up in an environment where people were really humble and really loved each other, and were not a lot of pride, not a lot of ego. So not a lot of wealth either. It's like just like all other reservations, it's very impoverished. And so usually when that is the case, I would say there's a lot more humility. And I'm very, very grateful for that. So totally a key part of growing up who I am. When I started working jobs during the summer, my first job was at Subway, and I would get off work, and whoever my last customer was, whether they were from Germany or Jerusalem, I would sit down with them and ask them about what their life was like in Jerusalem or Germany, and what it was like to be a Jew, and what the differences were between that and my religion as a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So yeah, I had a plethora of experiences like that really shaped who I am. And then honestly, most foundationally, my testimony of Jesus Christ. And my family, I have the most amazing parents. I think they're the best people in the world. I love them so much, and they really love Jesus and really taught us how to love Jesus and to love each other. And I have 4 younger siblings who are better than me in every way, and
I get that.
I'm so grateful for them. And yeah, I would be nothing without them. I would be nothing without Jesus. And I just feel so blessed that I grew up in Page with so many opportunities to learn from people who were different than me, because that really shaped who I am as a person.
That's really exceptional. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thank you for listening.
Let's dive a little deeper here. What's been a significant challenge or adversity that you faced in your life?
Just in general, or like currently? Is this the whatever?
Yeah. Dive in.
I think, currently, right now, what I'm facing is really understanding and discerning the spirit. I was diagnosed with depression in 2020 after a very traumatic breakup, and also at the time I was building an online Instagram community called Humans of BYU, and it was getting a lot of success and really popular, and it was my whole life, and I started to really burn out from that as well. And just a couple other factors that led me to experience the first depressive episode of my life. I was 24. I hadn't really experienced depression to that degree before. And I think since getting diagnosed with depression and having to step away from Humans of BYU and trying to navigate my mental health, and also having experienced a couple of pretty severe anxiety episodes since then as well, I feel like depression and anxiety are the things that have been the most difficult for me, honestly. And I don't even know if that's, I think those are, I don't know if that is, the events that have triggered these things have been the most difficult. So it is like hard for me to deal with like the depression and anxiety, but really like it's the things that trigger that lead to a depressive episode or lead to an anxiety episode that I really struggle with navigating. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. This question kind of dives in a little deeper here.
Yeah, that's great.
How did this challenge impact you initially, and what were your immediate reactions?
I am currently trying to build another online community. I built one when I was at BYU called Humans of BYU, where I interviewed 100 plus strangers on the most intimate parts of their life story in order to increase empathy and love on campus and in Utah Valley. And more recently, God is calling me to build another community where I can help people more authentically connect with and experience the love of God through stories of my own life and experiences with God, but also creating experiences and events in person where people can grow spiritually and really feel His love and be able to overcome the shame and the fear that they feel in their own lives. And I, a couple months ago, was going to go back to be a tour guide in Arizona, but God was just like, you need to go up to Utah and figure out how to get this mission and this community built. And I didn't have a lot of money, and I was like, I don't have any money to make this happen. And God was like, no, you need to go up to Utah and figure it out and get up there, because it's been something that He's been planning. He's been wanting me to do for like the last 2 years. I've been slowly being prompted to do this and to build this. And so He kind of pushed me up here a little bit. I did want to go, but I've never taken this risk financially. I really needed to go back to the canyon to work and make money, but I also felt like it was pretty urgent that I came up here to try to network with people and try to build a community and start to get funding for the ideas that I have. And since I've been up here, it's been good, but it's also been really hard, and it's been a lot harder than I've expected. I've felt really prompted that there's this specific company that I'm supposed to get in contact with, and that prompting has been pretty clear, and it hasn't left me, and I've tried a lot of ways to get in contact with these people, and I haven't been able to do it. And so that's been the current biggest trial of my life right now, is being like, okay, I felt like God sent me up here for a reason. I felt like he wanted to get me up here right away. I felt like very strongly about this one company and working with them, and I've tried to get in contact with them, and it just hasn't happened. And so that's been the most confusing thing to me currently, the most painful thing to me currently, because it's caused a lot of anxiety, it's caused a lot of stress, because I just have been like, okay, God, I've tried so hard to reach out to these people and connect with them, and it hasn't gone the way that I thought. And I get different promptings all the time, but this one has been pretty strong. And so normally when I get a prompting like this pretty strong, I usually expect it to go the way that I think it's going to go. And so I'm kind of like a little bit, I'm a little bit frustrated. I would say a lot frustrated, because I just am kind of like, okay, like, and the other thing along with this prompting has been, I haven't felt like I can focus on anything else. Like, it has felt like this is the thing that I need to be spending the most time on. And that hasn't made a lot of sense to me either, because I'm not making any money. And so I'm basically losing money. I'm spending the money that I had before I came up here, and I haven't been able to get in contact with these people who I thought were going to give me money. And so it's kind of like, okay, are you just wanting me to run out of money? Like, why would you want me to run out of money? Like, I don't really know. And so it's a mix of, I don't know if I trust God as much as I did before I came up here, struggling with that, and then also financially struggling, like being like, okay, I had $1,500, I had $2,000 when I came up here, and now I'm like, I have $400 in my bank account. And so it's like, how is this like a test? Like, is that you want me to, because it's not like I can't find other ways to make money. I could, but it just has felt like this is the most important thing that you need to focus on. And so it's like, okay. And then it's hard because I definitely have OCD like tendencies where I'm like very obsessive. And so it's like, is this really how you want me to go about it? Like, I've exercised my faith in so many ways in this regard. I feel like I've sacrificed a lot, and yet I'm like, is this not enough? Like, I don't feel like it's enough. And then I have everybody in my life that's like, Hannah, like, what you're doing is enough. Like, it's always enough for God, all these things. And I was like, yeah, I know, but also I feel like I would feel that way, and I don't feel that. And so it's kind of like, I don't know what that is, and trying to discern. And I really, I've been studying the Book of Mormon every day since I was 16 pretty much. And so I've really cultivated a relationship with Jesus and the Spirit. And so I really, I really can trust myself in like the promptings that I receive and like my intuition. I'm pretty well versed in that. Yeah. And so it's kind of hard to be questioning that and be like, okay, this isn't going how I thought, and also it's negatively affecting me in some aspects of my life. So does that mean that I should stop doing it, or is this just a test of faith? And people, just yesterday I was talking to a mentor, and he's like, only do things that bring you joy, if this isn't bringing you joy. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. And I'm like, I hate this isn't bringing me joy. But then at the same time, I'm like, did Abraham find joy in like having to sacrifice Isaac? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there's things that I feel like, obviously we can have joy in Jesus and we can have peace in Jesus, but the thing that God is asking us to do isn't super good. You know, like it's not like Abraham was super happy about being asked to sacrifice Isaac, but he did it anyways. And so I'm kind of like, is that the level of sacrifice that God is asking me for right now? Because it's what I need to grow.
Yeah.
Also, Jesus, it's not like he was, he asked, you know, if the cup could pass before him, you know? And so it's kind of, I don't want to make myself a martyr. I'm not trying to make myself a martyr, but I'm also like, is this the test for me, you know? So, yeah. And of course, when I do talk about this openly with people, my logic side is like, this doesn't seem very healthy. And then I'm like, well, I don't know what else to do. And so, anyways, which to the people who are listening to this, hello, maybe you think I'm crazy, but I'm just trying to do what I feel the Spirit is calling me to do. And I value that the most over what people say to me. And I've always tried to do this, and not that I don't value what people say to me, but not everybody has the same goals as me, and not everyone is trying to follow Jesus, and not that not everyone is not trying to follow Jesus, but I feel a little bit like I know myself and I know Jesus, and I think that also tends to be like, I don't know who I should be listening to as much in terms of advice. Yeah. So, which is maybe a prideful thing, but also it's kind of like a self-protection thing, because I just want to make sure that I'm listening to God first. So
absolutely. What a journey. Oh my gosh, Hannah. As you've been going through this journey, specifically this impression and inspiration that you have felt to come up to Utah and fulfill this kind of community and build this community, were there any turning points or pivotal moments in this journey?
I wouldn't have come up here if I experienced a really big miracle before I came up here. So a part of the community that God is calling me to build, the way that he wants me to build it is through telling stories that help people experience God. More specifically, creating a digital art form version of my journal online on Instagram, Substack, and YouTube. And so what I feel like the last 2 years has been is God prompting me to be the God girl in the creator economy, which is essentially, there's lots of different creators for different things. They specialize for different things. What I see my specialty is helping people experience God's love and helping them know who he is and see the miracles that he's doing in their own lives. And the way that I've always done that is by sharing how God is working in my life and highlighting God through my experiences and my stories, regardless of if they are heartbreak or joy or the little miracles, whatever it is. I see God through it all, and I look for God in it all, and by sharing my experiences with that, it encourages people to feel him in some aspect and to see him in the same way, or to find him in the same way. And so for the last 2 years, God has been calling me to do that and be that in the creator economy, and more specifically, he's been more prompting me this year. At the beginning of the year, I didn't go look for a job. I decided for a couple months to just wake up every day and write and create and essentially have a bank of content that I could share later on YouTube, on Instagram, on Substack, and basically all these stories that help people feel his love that happened to me in my life. And as I was doing that, I made a goal to become connected to people who are making content, either for a living or for a hobby, because when I did Humans of BYU, I got really burnt out. One of the reasons was because I didn't have a community of people who were making content to understand what I was doing, and I don't thrive when I'm by myself. And so I know if I'm going to have to build, if I want to, because I do, but if I'm also called to build another online community, I need the supportive people who make content for a living or like are serious about it. And so I've had this goal. I had that goal at the beginning of the year, and have involved myself in different online communities, have made friends with people who are creators. It's been really awesome. And then in May of this year, I had gone back to the canyon, but there were a couple days I was in Utah for my sister going through the temple. And as I was up here, I had a friend who was applying for a catering event company and interviewing with a catering event company. And I just felt the Spirit be like, you need to apply to this catering event company. And I said, why? Why? I'm a tour guide in Arizona. I'm not interested in working for a catering event company. And the Spirit was like, no, you need to. And I just was mad because it didn't make any sense, but I kept feeling like I needed to. So anyways, reach out to the company. They set up an interview the day I was leaving back to Arizona. I interview with them, and the whole time I feel really good about it. And I'm like, why would I feel good about this? This is literally a $12 an hour job. Like, there's nothing. And at the end of the interview, they said, oh, would you like to try out an event with us? And I said, when is the next event? And they said tomorrow or Monday. And I was like, well, I'm leaving today, so maybe I'll come back on Monday to see if I could get some time off of work. But I left, and the Spirit was just like, you need to be at that event tomorrow. And I was like, why? I'm so mad. Like, why would I need to be at this event? I don't even know what the event is. They don't know what the event is. The Spirit kept saying that. I drove all the way back home to Arizona, 5 hours, because I was like, I have work tomorrow at the canyon. I'm not going to that event. Go to bed, wake up the next morning. The Spirit is like, you need to be at that event today. And I was just like, oh my gosh. Why? And so then I was terrified because I had work at 7 a.m. and I'm like, what am I going to do? I don't know what I'm going to do. And I was, I had just ended things with the guy that I was dating, who was so good to me, and we had officially ended a couple weeks before, but we weren't no contact, and I didn't want to talk to anybody else about what I was experiencing except for him. And I didn't have the courage to go into my work and talk to them because I was so scared. I didn't know why. I felt the Spirit so strongly, and so I called him, and he listened to me, and this was at 7 o'clock in the morning. My shift was at 7:30, and I just was like, this is what I've been experiencing. I don't know what to do. And he's like, I obviously can't make any decisions for you, but your intuition has led you to the doorstep of your dreams thus far. I don't know if it is the best thing not to follow it now. And I was just like, dang it. And he's not a member of the church, and so the phrase intuition, it's all the same really, but he's an incredible, spiritually in tune, amazing human. And he's like, do you know what you need to do? And I was like, yes. And so then I went in and I talked to my manager, and I was so scared, and she was like, yeah, we can, give you today off if you find someone to cover your shift tomorrow. And so I was like, okay, and I have no idea what I'm doing. I go back to my house, pack an overnight bag, and I text the person who interviewed me, and I'm like, I can make it to the event. What time do you need me there? And she said 3 p.m. in Orem, and Utah's an hour later than Arizona, so I left at 9, and I made it to Orem at 2:58 or something. And I get to the restaurant where they're packing up to go cater the event, and I ask them, you know, do you know what this event is? And nobody knows. You know, they never tell us. It's some work event. So it's just like, oh my gosh, like, I can't believe, like, I don't know. And I had pretty much at that point made peace of like, well, at least I did what I feel like God wanted me to do.
Yeah.
And so we drive an hour north and pull up to this mansion, and the first thing I see is this huge YouTube sign. And I immediately learn that it is a YouTube event hosted by the company YouTube for full-time creators in Utah, California, and New York.
No way.
I instantly know that that is where I'm supposed to be, because God wants me to be the God girl in the creator economy. And so I just immediately text Ethan and thank him.
Ethan is the guy you broke up with? Okay.
And go to this, and I end up working the drink bar and just get to network with everybody and meet a ton of YouTube executive people, and they all love me, and 3 of them subscribe to my YouTube channel, and one of them follows me on Instagram, and just think that it's the coolest story ever, and everybody loves my energy, and it's just, I know I'm supposed to be in that space with these people. I know that I am a creator. Like, these are my people, and it was just like a huge miracle and tender mercy. And especially because my goal at the beginning of the year was to become integrated in the creator economy. Yeah. And so to have this experience, and the people that they hosted, YouTube hosted the event with, was Space Station, which is the agency that I've been trying to get in contact with.
Yeah.
And then to top it off, not only did I become really close with a few of the people who worked at YouTube when I was there, but a couple days later, one of them texted me a screenshot of my channel, and I was like, oh, like, thanks for subscribing. And he's like, oh, no, I just verified your channel. And I was like, what? And you have to have 100,000 subscribers to be verified on YouTube. And at the time, I had 60 subscribers.
Oh, my gosh.
And so now I have 150. Feel free to subscribe. At Girl Finding God is my YouTube channel name. Anyways, so that, like, I went after that experience. I was like, this is surely what God wants me to be doing.
Yeah.
I went back to Arizona the next day and just was like instantly like, I'm not supposed to be a tour guide right now. I need to go up to Utah. I need to start getting things rolling. I need to be making content. And then what happened was I came up to Utah, and I've been couch surfing ever since. It's been 2 months. And a week into that, I was at a mall in Farmington, Utah, and I ran into one of the space station employees from the event that I briefly met, who I'd forgotten about. And he was like, oh, hey, totally recognized me. And I was like, oh, I need to be trying to get in contact with them, because they're local and they're a creator agency and they fund different organizations and creators. And maybe they can help me, because the people who own that are LDS. And so they would be interested in my mission, maybe a little bit more so than YouTube executives who, you know, really vibed with me as a person, but maybe aren't as interested in funding the mission. So anyways, so that's why I have been in relentless pursuit of Space Station. So it's hard because people are like, this is obviously not healthy. And I don't think I'm doing well, honestly. But I don't believe that the goal is bad. Like, I don't believe that. I believe if I could get in with the right people there, I could sell them. And not because of me, but because of the Spirit. And so it's hard to navigate feeling like, well, I had this big miracle, essentially. I'm like, the fact that I got to go to this event, this YouTube, by a YouTube executive, nobody is getting into that. Like, unless you are a creator, you know, unless you are making content for a living and it's your full-time thing. Like, you're not getting into those events. Like, it's not, no one just walks in, especially because some of those people there have like millions of subscribers. And so it's just a miracle that it's just a freaking miracle. And so I feel like I owe God, like, the effort of trying to contact the people who kind of facilitated that miracle, but also would be interested in maybe supporting me. And honestly, I know that things don't go the way that you think all the time, but I'm like, that was a pretty specific miracle and a pretty specific follow-up run-in with someone in that company. And so people are like, well, God has multiple ways for you to do things. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I know. But also those things were like pretty specific. Yeah. And so it's just kind of hard because nobody really understands anytime I talk about this. So it's very, the hardest part about this whole thing is like feeling like people think that I'm crazy.
Some of the best and brightest people in this world are people that were thought to be crazy.
Yeah, I need to really swallow my ego because hearing that doesn't make me feel any better.
That's fair. We'll pivot to this next section here. So this section is the hidden skills and passions. We'll start with the first question and we'll see where it takes us. Throughout this specific journey that you've been on, that you've been telling us about, did you discover any hidden skills or passions while dealing with this adversity?
Tenacity, I think. Like, I don't know if that's something I didn't know that I had, but I mean, it's really been, like, I've put in a lot of effort to this, more than I thought that I was capable of.
Yeah.
And so, gosh, a lot of courage to continue to try to pursue this when I feel anxious as hell about it, and I also am told that it doesn't make sense. And so it's like, yeah, pretty tenacious, I think. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I'm not like over here being like, yeah, now I finally made it in terms of tenacity, or I'm also not like, oh, I've discovered this new, I'm pretty long-suffering, I guess, like, and I wouldn't even say that because I'm kind of a wimp, honestly. So, I don't really know. I mean, I think I've discovered more of my weaknesses than anything else, so.
This might be a good follow-up question. How did these skills or passions help you cope with or overcome the challenges?
Well, I mean, I think what I am the most passionate about is doing what I feel like God is calling me to do.
Yeah.
And so I have found like a lot of joy in my relationships with the people who do take time to listen to me and help me feel seen and heard, because then I feel like more connected to God.
Yeah.
I've gone to the temple a lot more than the temple's 2 hours away, so it's not as frequent. And I've made the temple more of a priority, which I always feel peace in the temple. Not always, I would say. I wouldn't say always, but recently, the last couple times I've gone, it's been a good experience. I'm really grateful for that.
Good.
I don't know if that was a question. What was
No.
the question?
How do these skills or passions help you cope or overcome your challenges?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm overcoming anything, but I think my passion for trying to do what I feel like God is calling me to do is the thing that is keeping me going.
No, I love it. I feel like throughout this journey that you've been describing to me is this quote or this phrase that comes to my mind. I feel like might be a really great description of kind of what you're going through is do it, but if you're scared, do it scared.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, at least the example that you're showing me is the fact that you feel called to do something and you feel anxious about it, but you still do it anyways because you feel like this is the right way for you to go.
Yeah, it's been an interesting, I think about that quote a lot to describe myself as well. It's hard because there's definitely I don't have any understanding. I do have some understanding. I'm learning to understand how to take care of myself along the way, but I've always erred on the side of ruining myself for the cause, and that is not healthy. And so, like, I'm very much, I do the things that are scary.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's hard because sometimes anxiety is like a warning sign of like, maybe this is not it for you, you know? Like, maybe you should slow down. And I just am like, kind of, when something scares me, I've always been like, I just need to freaking do it.
Yeah.
Except, I don't know if that's as working out right now because I think it's causing a lot of burnout. And so, yeah, I mean, I've always, gosh dang it, I've always been like that. My fear is this anxiety that I'm feeling is Satan. Like, is Satan not wanting me to do the thing that I want to do because this is the Lord's mission. It's not my mission. And so, like, trying to get in touch with these people is not what Satan wants because they have a lot of money, they have a lot of knowledge, they have a lot, do you know what I'm saying? And so why would Satan want me to? And so then there's like a lot of doubt, a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety. And yeah, but then at the same time, it's like, well, what if I'm causing the anxiety and fear myself because I'm pursuing something that clearly is not working? Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
It's like
absolutely
clearly not working out. And so then it's like, okay, well, how about be a little bit logical? And I'm like, yeah, I do want to be a little bit logical. I really do. And then I'm like, well, God asks you to do things that aren't logical all the time. And so
yeah,
it's hard because people often don't understand how, like, very committed I am to doing what God wants. And a lot of time I am too hard on myself. I do put too much pressure on myself. But at the same time, I'm like, well, I mean, how is this going to get done? Like, how is this going to get done? Like, and people are, you need to take off, you need to, you know, you don't have to do this. You don't have to do this. It's, God doesn't want you to feel anxious. God doesn't want you to unnecessarily suffer. And I'm like, yeah, I understand that. But also I'm like, God wants us to do things that are hard because that helps us grow. And this has been extremely hard for me. Why would he not want me to do it? Like, I mean, because it's hard? Like, and because it's causing me so much stress? Like, I mean, yeah, that's not good. I don't want to feel perpetually stressed or perpetually anxious, which is kind of what's been happening. But at the same time, it's like, I mean, I feel perpetually anxious and perpetually stressed because this is a pretty big goal and it's pretty stressful to try to make happen. And so it's just maybe better, like, I think maybe sometimes people are like, he doesn't want you to feel this way, he doesn't want you to feel this way. And I'm like, maybe it's more about like, well, what happens when you do feel this way? Managing those experiences. Because it's not like I'm like, I'm going to be putting myself out there in this way, building another community, asking for money. All these things are stressful in itself, like, because I've never done it before. I've never tried to monetize my content. I've never tried to build a business. So it's like, well, of course I'm going to feel stress and anxiety about it. I think everyone is just concerned about how I haven't been able to manage it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I can do it. And so it's really, and I know that, like, that's obviously when I need to be turning to God, but I just feel like recently as I've been doing that it just is like one hard thing after another.
Yeah.
And so I don't really want to turn to him as much because I'm like, this is too much for me. Like I physically can't do this. It's like a lot of anxiety. I feel like called to these people specifically, but man, it's really driven me to the ground. And I've always wanted to be like the people in the scriptures, but I actually don't really want that anymore.
I get that.
I'm like, and it's so hard because, I don't know as many people who wants that as much as me.
Yeah.
And I know that they are there, but I'm always like, a huge part of what this mission is helping people be excited about God and connect more with God and really like be revitalized in him, essentially. But why I'm doing that is because I feel like we're not doing that enough. Like, we're not connecting with him enough. We're not accessing his power enough. Yeah. We're not experiencing his love enough. And so if that's the case, then it's like, essentially what I'm doing is calling people to repentance. Mm-hmm. And so it's just like, everyone's like, oh, you're too extreme, or like you need to, and I'm like, yeah, I know I need to manage myself better, but I'm also like, people are literally dying because they're not experiencing the love of God. Like, we're spiritually starving and physically starving because we're not experiencing the power and love of God enough in our lives. I don't know how else to say it. And so it's just like, yes, I am on the pendulum, the extreme side, but like we need to be a little bit more, we need to be more connected to God, and we're not, as a church and as a society. So
I appreciate those thoughts. What steps did you take to overcome the adversity you faced?
So, as you can see, I'm still in it, but I feel like every day is a battle and a challenge of whether or not I'm going to do what I feel like God is calling me to do. And it's been really helpful having people come with me when I go try to talk to these people at the agency. Yeah. And really opening up to people and like telling them that this is what I've been experiencing, like you, like the other day, and asking for blessings, asking for help, and really when I am honest with people about what I'm experiencing and ask people to help me, which has been very hard, that helps me.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you sharing that. What keeps you motivated and inspired even during difficult times?
Jesus. So grateful for Jesus. I love him. He obviously went through it all and focused on the joy that was set before him, which is probably a lesson that I need to learn in order to overcome everything that he felt and experienced. But yeah, Jesus, the love of God, experiencing that myself, and my desire to help everybody experience that is what keeps me going. And my testimony that ultimately it's through the love of God that we are transformed into who we're meant to be, and we're saved. We are nothing without God's love, and the epitome of God's love is Jesus, and so we are nothing without Jesus. So that's what keeps me going, and also probably, understanding who I am as a literal divine being, as a literal child of God, as a spirit who has lived for thousands and thousands of years, who made the decision before the earth even was created to come down here. And that in my deepest and darkest times, taking time to sit with premortal Hannah, my premortal spirit, and just meditate on who she was and journal and ask her questions, that has changed my life. That's something that when I was originally diagnosed with depression, I felt really inspired to do. And every dark experience that I've had, sitting with her has been transformative for me. And just taking time to really be like, her is me, right? But really taking time to sit with that part of me, of my spirit, who made the decision to come down here. Because I made the decision for a reason, and I'm very wise. I have, who knows, thousands, we don't know what the time is, but my spirit has been alive for a very long time, and she knows what she's doing. And she made the decision to come to earth and to have these experiences because of how much she loved and trusted Jesus. And so if she knew what she was doing back then in trusting Jesus, I know what I'm doing now in terms of trusting Jesus. So really connecting with her has been just transformative for me.
Thanks, Hannah. Thank you for being willing to, first of all, be such an early guest on a podcast that is emerging, but also for being vulnerable and sharing your true struggle in the moment. I feel like it's easy to share the struggle when it's past and you've overcome and you've triumphed. But I think it's significantly harder to share in the moment.
Yeah.
So I appreciate your courage and your vulnerability in sharing your story, in the hopes that, one, your message will go forth, but also, two, that people can find inspiration and courage through your example.
Right. Thank you, Julian. Thank you for having me on. I'm so excited to hear what you do and listen to the other guests, and thanks for giving me a space to share and for being a safe space and for being a person I can trust. I'm really grateful.
You're wonderful. We'll have you again soon.
Bye!
Thank you so much, Hannah, for sharing your insights and journey with us today. Your passion for authenticity and connection with God is truly inspiring. For those who want to dive deeper into Hannah's work, be sure to check out her Substack, Girl Finding God, and consider reaching out to her for more personal guidance. Thanks again, Hannah, for your time and wisdom.